in this function, we use the scrape endpoint to go through the top 3 links in the map, which we hope includes the pricing page. And then we ask O1, based on this markdown for each page, does it fulfill the objective? Can you extract the data that fulfills this objective? And then if it does, it returns the JSON. And if it doesn't, it will search. It will go to the next page in the list of pages in map.
So today we have Ciarla with our community. Eric is the founder at Firecrawl, and he leads marketing there. He also worked on Mendable.ai and sold to companies like Snapchat, Coinbase, and MongoDB. And Firecrawl is completely open source. Previously, Eric was at Fort and Frecta as a data scientist. And there's one fun fact about Eric, which is he has a pilot's license and enjoys flying around the Northeast. So Eric, welcome to an AI Tinkerers Ottawa webinar.
Thanks for having me. Hi, it's great to be here and excited to show you guys Firecrawl.
Awesome. So just quick questions before we dive into the demo. Everyone here is here because they know about Firecrawl, actually. And what's the origin story of Firecrawl? Because I know you guys were doing Mendable before. I was on like Llama Index documentation site in LangChain. I saw Mendable, but now I see Firecrawl. So what's the story?
Yeah. So we were originally doing Mendable.ai, and we had quite a bit of success, as you were mentioning. Like we were on Llama Index docs, LangChain docs. We were basically one of the first RAG as a service companies. Again, we ended up selling to companies like Coinbase, Snapchat, DoorDash, pretty huge companies. But we ended up seeing a larger and more painful problem, which was our web ingestion pipeline. At Mendable, like we were constantly ingesting websites for these big companies. And the big problem we ended up seeing was it's actually really hard to build a great web scraper for AI apps. You have to scrape all the pages, crawl the pages, convert everything to Markdown, make sure it's the right kind of Markdown. And there's tons of different sites that, you can't just do, Python requests with. You have to like actually, load the website, load all of the JavaScript, and then click around a few things. So it was like a very, very hard problem that we, when we were building Mendable and this, mini product inside of Mendable, we were like, wow, maybe this is just a product, could be a product itself. So we ended up over a weekend basically prototyping, taking Firecrawl out of Mendable and making its own standalone open source project, released it on a Monday. And I think it got something like 1,000 stars overnight, something crazy. And that was the signal that we needed to be like, okay, let's, keep leaning into this project. So we kind of slowly started putting more of our engineering effort behind Firecrawl. And I think 2 months in or 3 months in, we ended up passing our users passing user numbers for Mendable and then passing revenue as well. So it was like a very like nice looking hockey stick of usage, which we were like, okay, it's time to put all the energy into Firecrawl. So that's kind of where we are at today. We're at 17,000 GitHub stars. We're releasing updates almost daily. And it's still a huge unsolved problem. Like we have so many different things we need to build and improve, and it's just a very great problem space to be in.
Yeah, I've been following you guys since like I think a year or 2 years ago, and I only knew about this because I follow you on LinkedIn, and like I could see the transition, and like, oh, like we got really popular. Oh, we're moving everybody over to Firecrawl, and oh, like we're shipping like 12 features a week, and like, oh, it's interesting. Yeah, I gotta watch this more. But that makes a lot of sense. And now it's your time. Like, do you want to jump right into the demo?
Yeah, sure. I actually built a little slideshow for you guys. I can kind of take you through what Firecrawl is and the different endpoints we offer. Again, we're Firecrawl. We allow you to convert any website into AI-ready data. Essentially, that means you take a website and then it gives you token-efficient markdown for each page. Simple as that. And also, feel free, if anybody has any questions during this, like I would love to, I'm sure there's going to be a question and answer at the end, but if you have any burning questions, would love to answer them at the time. So essentially, we provide bypassing JavaScript rendering, enriching metadata, crawling with inconsistent sitemaps, parallel scraping jobs, hosting headless browsers and proxies, bot blocking, and of course, formatting LLM-friendly markdown. And this is all stuff that you couldn't do with just using like Python requests or something simple. So we really beef up the scraping process and then convert it into token efficient markdown LLMs.
Hey, can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah,
just
sure.
Why is bypassing the JavaScript rendering important?
So a lot of the web pages on the web right now are they use JavaScript to display components, render pages, and if you're just using something simple like requests, you're not going to get that JavaScript, and like components aren't going to load. You're not going to get the correct information. So what we do is we actually spin up a web browser that can wait and even click around, so you can get all of the data instead of just maybe just the title or something that a naive approach would have.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, there's a ton of ways to use us. We have an API. We have 4 different SDKs. My favorite being the Python. We're integrated into a bunch of different LLM frameworks like LangChain, Llama Index, Crew. Also integrated into Diffie and Zapier, which is 2 of my favorite platforms as well. We actually have quite a bit of usage on Zapier, which is pretty cool, and super easy to spin up an app with that. We offer 3 main endpoints. One is scrape, map, and crawl. So scrape is basically used to scrape one URL and get its content. We actually have a parameter in the scrape endpoint that allows you to extract structured data. So we basically pass the web page through a LLM, which allows it to, and you give it an objective. So it can basically give you a JSON object back with the information that you requested. So say if I want to plug in Firecrawl / pricing, and I type in the objective, find me the pricing, it will basically give you back all of the pricing options in a JSON schema, which is actually super useful if you're plugging into a database or functions, etc. We also have a parameter to take actions. So like I was mentioning earlier, we spin up a whole browser that goes to the website. So you can actually click around, scroll, even type into input boxes to make sure the data is the data you actually want to get. And it's actually super useful for a bunch of different sites. We also have a /map endpoint, and that is essentially you type in a URL, and then it gets you all of the URLs on that website. We also have a parameter that can be used to search for links. So say, I'm going to go with this pricing example again. Say I just want to get the pricing page of a website. I can type in the base URL in the objective, just type in, or search parameters, type in pricing, and it'll basically list the pricing page first in that list of URLs. We also lastly have a /crawl endpoint. Basically here you type in a URL, and then it will crawl all accessible subpages, just like a typical crawl would do. Going to the page, finding all of the links in the website, and then getting all the data for all the pages there. So here's this is actually a screenshot of our playground. We have all three of these endpoints that you can test out and play around with. So this is the scrape endpoint. So again, as simple as typing in a URL and you get the markdown back. /map. Again, it just lists a bunch of links, all of the links for the websites. Here in this example, I had a search query of launch week because we recently had a launch week at Firecrawl, and it basically prioritized all of our blogs about our launch week, which is perfect. And then lastly, crawl is, as you might expect, you type in the URL and it gets all of the pages and the markdown with the pages. So this kind of goes into, how people use us. The most common flow we're seeing right now is people using the /map endpoint with a search parameter and then scraping the top results, top result pages, and then doing something cool with it, plugging into an LLM, LangChain, whatever they really want to do with it. Next, so one of the very interesting example use cases we put out recently. So I guess I'll step back a little bit. One of the things we find that's really interesting to our Twitter audience is building cool examples with Firecrawl and the latest LLMs. Just last week we used the real-time API in Firecrawl to talk through navigating websites, which is really interesting and sort of useful. It could definitely be improved, but we love demoing Firecrawl with the latest AI tech. And a couple weeks back, me and the team built this thing called O1 Crawler, which used OpenAI's newest O1 reasoning model to basically crawl a site based on an objective and then scrape structured JSON based on that. So I'm gonna walk you guys through the code really quick, through a really simple example, and then that's pretty much it there. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my cursor screen right here. While I bring that up, any other questions come up?
Hey, Eric, good to see you. Let me please just start my camera. Good to meet you. It's very funny. I actually had a need to do some crawling on e-commerce competitor sites. I was just working in e-commerce domain, and this is really great. So looking forward to use it. The one thing I wanted to check was how so many crawler sites have these restrictions on bots scrolling the site. So have your tool faced any issues with some proxies blocking your crawlers?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have faced this kind of issue before. We do have ways of getting around those sort of things. But we also, respect sites, if they really don't want people crawling their site. We have a list of blocked URLs that, people can ask to be added to. And we also block some stuff out of the box, like Twitter and some other sites there. But for other sites, we do have ways of getting around, bot blocking and captchas and that kind of stuff with proxies, etc.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Sounds like a really interesting use case, by the way.
Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. Yeah. So this is O1 Crawler right here. It's actually a pretty simple application. It's only 100 lines of code. But I'll go ahead and walk you through it. So all we really did to build this was use the Firecrawl Python SDK as well as the OpenAI SDK. And the first function that's really important here is we're basically mapping using the /map endpoint to map the website based on a search parameter. So the first thing that this application asks for is, again, the website to crawl. I'm going to just do firecrawl.dev. And the second thing is the objective. And so I'm going to ask it to find me the pricing tiers. So essentially, based on this objective, it will generate a search parameter for the map endpoint using O1. Now, this, I'm going to be honest, this is a bit overkill using O1, but it is actually pretty useful, especially for more complex use cases. But for just finding the pricing, 4.0 could do the trick as well. This next function here is finding the objective in the top pages. So essentially, in this function, we use the scrape endpoint to go through the top 3 links in the map, which we hope includes the pricing page. And then we ask O1, based on this markdown for each page, does it fulfill the objective? Can you extract the data that fulfills this objective? And then if it does, it returns the JSON. And if it doesn't, it will search. It will go to the next page in the list of pages in map. So I'll go ahead and get that started here. And yeah, the main function here is just kind of putting it all together. Oh, whoops. Oh, okay. I got to I have to. The one thing about Python that's a little annoying is environments. I have to use the right environment for this to work. Python web crawl.
I started using UV last week, and I can't go back.
What's UV?
Oh man, UV is like it's like the better requirements.txt.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to look into that. Yeah, because right now, like, if you don't have the right, like, it's just so tough. It's so tough.
What's UV like compared to poetry?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say UV is the better poetry too. So if you want like the PNPM, if you're coming from TypeScript, I mean like Next.js stuff, like you use UV and you can type UV init, you get like the whole thing set up. It's basically like
That's
modern day development for Python.
Yeah. That's like the thing about Node. That's like the best part about Node. It's just like it's so easy to get new environment. It's just so simple. All right, so now on this new environment, it's working fine. So essentially, we use the map endpoint with the optimal search parameter that O1 identified from this objective, which is pricing tiers, and then the /map analyzed the top 3 links, or got the top 3 links, which is pricing, our homepage, and then blog. And then basically O1 found all the pricing tiers in the first page, which makes total sense because it's the pricing page, and then returned us this JSON here, which is our free plan, our hobby plan, standard, growth, and then enterprise. So yeah, that's a really fun example. It is, again, it's an expensive example because it's using O1, which is not the cheapest, but it's still really interesting to see how these reasoning models can create these search parameters and then extract the data based on the markdown we give it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for my presentation, but would love to continue the conversation and answer more questions.
Super cool. So I really like this because I was building a land graph agent to do something similar, and I didn't know that you can put like the search param into your /map endpoint, because mine would just go like, okay, 200 links, we're just gonna go one by one.
/map, the search param there is actually super useful. It means you only have to like go through maybe the first 3 links to get your the right page, and we actually use semantic search to basically compare the objective to the website, page URL, and it actually works really well. So yeah, huge fan of the search parameter there. Would highly recommend doing that and then using our /scrape function.
That's awesome. That's something that I can take away right away today. So I'm just gonna ask you like 4 quick questions.
Yeah.
And then we'll open up the floor to the community real quick. So why is web scraping popping up in 2024?
Yeah, so it's as simple as web scraping allows you to turn any website into an API. That's like super exciting, especially for AI applications. Like you need to have up-to-date data. You want to have access to stuff that you can see on your browser. It's just super exciting to get that kind of data and have anything be an API.
Yeah, and what's like the typical persona that uses a lot of web scraping and Firecrawl nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, we have any people just hacking around all the way up to huge companies. Some of my favorite examples, we have Zapier using us for their chatbot product that they just launched. We also have a app called Gamma using us. I'm not sure if you guys have used them before, but they're essentially a very popular app. I think they have millions of users, but it's essentially a way that you can plug in any website and then it'll turn it into a presentation or a website itself. It basically generates content based on the website you enter. And super popular, very fun and interesting to use. Highly recommend checking it out. It's called Gamma. And then another use case we're super excited about is sales enrichment generation. So a lot of companies will use this to scrape their potential prospects and then generate data to go into their CRM like Salesforce. That's something we're also super excited about because it allows you to really narrow down your pitch and really come in with a great understanding of what your prospects think about. But that's just the iceberg. We have people using us for all sorts of things, which is super exciting.
Cool. And top 3 challenges when you guys are building this, because I know web scraping is not as straightforward as we think it is. So
yeah. Again, it's like really easy to get a simple request working, but doing this at scale for a lot of sites and for a lot of requests is really difficult. Specifically, we are putting a lot of our engineering effort into scaling web browsers. Web browsers are really demanding, and having them ready to go and having them be able to scale with ebbs and flows in usage are really difficult. So that's something we're putting a lot of engineering time and thought into. Also, how can we avoid triggering bot blocking? I mean, like the earlier question, a lot of companies, or websites are not built for it, or they are not the biggest fans of it. So we're trying to think of ways to still get data while not triggering that. And then lastly, something we're really excited about is kind of like this O1 crawler type application. How can we create an endpoint that you take an objective and it will consistently and efficiently get structured data out of it, just like a API for any website. There's obviously naive ways to do it. I'm gonna be honest, O1 crawler is a pretty naive way to do it, but there's so much there that can be built. It's a super interesting problem and something we're investing engineering time also in. So yeah, those are the 3 most important things right there.
we got a question from Jolly. So are there any recommendations on how to format and pipe or store the output from the crawl to another framework?
Yeah, usually a JSON will do just fine. We basically, it really depends on the application. But yeah, if you can just port it via JSON, schema. That's usually the best way to do it. It basically comes out as markdown, so it's pretty simple to do that.
Yeah. So for me, so my LangGraph agent will just hit the map endpoint and then take all the links out and do like 5 links in parallel, like at the same time. I
That's
think,
awesome.
yeah, I think this is really, as long as you're under like the Firecrawl rates per minute like limit, then you can do it. But I think the use case is phenomenal.
That's awesome.
Cool. So I know you guys came out with actions recently, I think. So
Yes.
You go to the website and click stuff. So tell me a little bit more about that, and also like what's like the next big thing that you guys are gonna work on, if you can tell us.
Yeah. So I'll start on action. So yeah, we released that I think a week or so ago. And essentially it allows you to click around the website and basically specify like wait 5 seconds, then click this button with ID, pricing, and then type in this here and then take a screenshot. So it allows you to really basically take action on the website, which is, again, super useful for exposing the data that you actually want to scrape. So yeah, the next thing on our agenda really is like we're working really hard on scaling right now. Like we're seeing like a hockey stick kind of growth. So we're trying to really like find a way to scale these browsers. But also like on the more exciting like kinds of things, we're like looking at authentication, like basically like being able to log in with your own cookie. We support a very naive version of it right now, but we want to make it like really good. We find that kind of interesting. And also better LLM extracts. Something that we released already and something I mentioned was we have LLM extract. Right now it's good, like it works, but we want it to be great. And right now it's still kind of in a beta stage. So those are 2 things that we're trying to really refine and build out. And we think there's a lot of interest specifically for auth and extraction. So yeah, stay tuned. We have a launch week number 2 coming up soon. So stay on lookout there.
It's a never ending cycle.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot to build.
Cool. So now anyone can just unmute themselves, and if you want to ask a question, go ahead and ask. Okay, I see Brad first. I think Jolly next. So Brad, go for it.
Okay, Matt, great presentation. The question I have is around, I've been playing around a lot with Crew AI, and so it's an agentic type system, and they have a few tools that do things like, you can read a PDF, it'll do all the embedding for you so that you can then do searches within it. And they do the same thing with their other types of crawlers. Have you done anything with them? And how do you do the semantic search that you provide?
Yeah, so we do have a Crew integration. I'm not sure if it's updated with our new map endpoint. But yeah, that's something we can definitely support. For the time being, if they don't have support for our map with the search parameter, I would just call our API if that's possible with your app and do it that way. But yeah, they should have support for our map endpoint.
And what about this idea of being able to index and do embedding so that you can do an index search through the content? Is that on
Gotcha.
their end, or is that something you're doing?
So yeah, that's not something we're doing right now. We do like a embedding on the actual links themselves, not the actual pages. So yeah, that's something you could probably do through Crew and basically do like some sort of RAG setup. That is also something that we're thinking about with the improved extraction, like doing basically a RAG on top of the scraped data. But that's still pretty far out for us. So would recommend probably doing a custom solution with Crew right now on that.
Excellent. Yeah, so that's exactly what it's like, a rag on top of. Okay, but you do that for the links. That's how you do your filtering on links right now.
Yes, we do a very quick version of basically it's semantic filtering. It's not quite rag. It's just like lining up the intent of the objective with the URLs themselves.
Right. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Jolly, you want to go next?
Hey, hi. Thanks for the demo and presentation. Quick question here. So is the crawler, it's fetching the map, the search, and other data. So I feel those are use cases, but once it fetches the data, does it cluster them, or do the developers need to do that after the crawler outputs the data, or can we add something to the crawler using which the crawler can classify or cluster the data? Because it mentions, right, if I'm at your website right now, I think the first or second slide you mentioned, it's map.
Yeah, so there's
Scrape, crawl, and map. Yeah. So scrape is scraping, crawl is it's going to crawl, map it's going to map the sub pages, search is going to search. But once it fetches the data, how is it identifying? Can we tag the data? Can we add tags or cluster? I'm trying to.
Yeah. So essentially, with map, we
Mhm.
basically sort the data, sort the URLs for you based on the search parameter. For crawl, there's some parameters that you can use, like you can basically specify the level of how deep we go in the crawl, or pages / URLs to exclude. But we don't sort them or cluster them for you when we're doing the crawl themselves. Right now, it's very basic, crawling the web page, crawling all the links, and then getting all the data for all the links, and then giving them back to you.
Yeah, that's good. So, but yeah, okay. So, but basically, it's that part is after
on
the
your
crawling.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep, no problem. Awesome.
So I personally find that taking screenshots and then pipe that into like a vision LLM is like more consistent than getting markdowns. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Oh, that's very interesting. We have built applications that use Firecrawl to get screenshots, and then building porting them to vision models. The only problem with that is they're a little more expensive. So the way we do the markdown conversion is just through like a library. So we don't have to pay any LLM calls unless we're doing like an extraction, which then we pay LLM costs. But I'd be interested to hear, like, does it get all of the data you want? And what exactly is the data you want? Or is it just like the titles and stuff like that?
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
I used actions, like the day the action came out.
Yeah.
And I think I went on Perplexity and I tried to search stuff. So I hit Perplexity and then try to get marked down. But I ended up using like screenshot and then scroll, and then screenshot and then scroll, and then that worked way better. So it's just like one website, and then I think on the time I went on Amazon, I did the same thing. So it's just, in my experience, like consistently, like the screenshot stuff is like is more consistently like performant than.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Do you use the full page screenshot or just like the regular screenshot?
See, I didn't know there's a full page screenshot.
There is yeah. So if you want to like make that even better, you can take a screenshot of the whole page, which is very, like, if you want to capture all the data, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
that's like super cool though. What model do you use?
I just popped it to initially Mini, and
Okay.
then I think I switched to 4.0 because apparently like Mini 4 Mini is like 33 times cheaper, but then it used roughly 33 times more tokens. So it balances out with like 4.0, but then 4.0 is more accurate. So yeah, so like I was gonna say, like these webinars are just excuses for me to not read the documentation and just hear people.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the documentation right now. That's awesome. That's very cool. We'll have to experiment with that. I used Llama 3.2 Vision the other day to build an example, and it was very impressive actually. It's probably even cheaper than 4.0 if I were to guess. But yeah, that's very cool. Very cool stuff.
Where do you use it from? Because the day it came out, I went on Grok, but I think they only have like the text version on there.
Yeah, I used Together Compute. Yeah, they're pretty good. They have the latest Llama models and the vision stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Oh, we got one from Bob. Go for
Well,
it.
I'll just stay on that theme. Do you support PDFs right now?
Yeah. So if there's a PDF, actually, first of all, tell me more about your use case for PDFs.
Well, this continues. Hai and I have talked about some of this stuff recently because he gave me a hand. Basically, consider scraping restaurant websites, venue spaces. They often have like PDFs accompanying for their or like wedding packages, stuff like that. That's usually where the bulk of the details are. I have a follow-up question too. I'll ask you in a second, but that's the
Yeah.
gist.
So we do support that. Yeah. So if there's a PDF in the website, we'll scrape it and return it in the same markdown format.
And so it's funny because I've been doing a bunch of this recently, and I've found that I pretty much have to do vision scraping in order to get the tabular data.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, it's just like a bit of a mess. You'll just get like you'll get it by column, right? And then LLM will try to tease it together, but it'll get it wrong because it'll be like the last row of column 1 will be matched up with, the top row of column 2, and then all your results are off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been my
interesting.
experience anyway. I haven't actually tried Firecrawl for it, so if I do, I'll let you know if it works any better.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how Firecrawl fares with that. But yeah, tabular data is difficult. So yeah, maybe I definitely have some ideas around how we could fix it, but they could be costly. Like we could pass every PDF page to like a visual model and then do that, but that'd be pretty expensive pretty quick. But if quality is what you need, it's definitely something we could do.
Yeah, that's probably, that's kind of where I'm at. And my follow-up is actually just kind of have you seen people, like, especially if you're the idea of turning websites into APIs, there's a lot of websites out there that have inaccurate data or conflicting data. Does your stuff handle that in any capacity?
No, not right now. That's a really good observation though. And that's something we saw at Mendable too. Like companies anywhere, like in even their internal websites, internal databases, they have conflicting information. And the source of truth is really kind of subjective.
Totally.
Like from parts of the org, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very like human organizational problem. But that is something we could try to tackle in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably products there, right, that will scan and tell you where your inconsistencies are in your website that you would build on top of your stuff, which seems to make more sense. I find it like just from a prompt engineering standpoint, like knowing that the data is not necessarily all accurate because it's going to if you're keying on the data that's scraped, you kind of have to like instruct and say like, you might get conflicting information here and do X, Y, and Z with it, as opposed to the default of, at least what I've seen with most models, is just to assume that if you find something that matches, it's true.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. One interesting connection here is we actually made an example with Firecrawl called, I think it's conflict contradiction testing. So basically, it scrapes or crawls your whole website and compares each page. It's pretty expensive, but it compares each page with each other, and is like, is there any contradictions between these two pages?
Nice.
And it's actually pretty interesting. We found some contradictions in our own website. So yeah, that's an interesting, fun example you can run if you have time.
Nice. Yeah, that's basically exactly what I was thinking of. So that's great. Yeah, awesome.
Sweet, awesome.
Sounds like the kind of like you can set up a pipeline for like self-healing documentation and self-healing websites or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Yeah, you just gotta like, then after you find the contradiction, you gotta like ping, the person on Slack and be like, what's truth? What's the truth here? And then yeah, that's really interesting.
Cool. 2 minutes left. Do we have any more questions? Well, if not, Eric, thank you so much for being here today. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Very informative, Eric. Very good.
Thank you.
How can people find you?
Yeah, so if you guys want to stay up to date with our latest updates, you can follow us on X at firecrawl_dev. And then if you want to follow me, I post a lot of examples with Firecrawl. It's at Eric Ciarla. Awesome. On X. Cool. Well, yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. This was a blast. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you guys, on email if you have any feedback on the product, or on X or whatever. So yeah, thanks for having me, guys.